Have you ever considered the hidden biases lurking beneath the folds of women's clothing? Clothing you see is more than just a utilitarian necessity. It's a powerful form of expression, a mirror reflecting societal norms, cultural traditions, and personal identities. But what happens when this mirror is distorted by bias, when the very garments we don become symbols of inequality, control, or stereotype? This is the unseen world of women's clothing bias, a phenomenon as complex as it is pervasive. From the intricate veils of the Middle East to the vibrant saris of India, every stitch tells a story, each hemline a tale of bias and implications. So, buckle up as we unravel the complex tapestry of women's clothing bias, from its historical roots to its contemporary relevance. Together, let's explore the unseen narratives woven into our daily attire, and perhaps change the way we perceive the clothes we wear. To unravel the knotted threads of women's clothing bias, we must first peer into the loom of history. This journey takes us back to ancient civilizations like Greece and Rome, where women's clothing was much more than just fabric and thread. It was a symbol, a signifier of marital status and social position. A woman's attire was not simply a matter of personal choice, but was regulated, serving as an outward expression of societal norms and expectations. Fast forward to the Victorian era, a time known for its strict propriety and decorum. Women were expected to don voluminous skirts and tightly laced corsets, attires that not only restricted their physical mobility, but also mirrored the societal constraints placed on them. The clothing of the time was a manifestation of patriarchal norms, a reflection of an era where modesty and virtue were prized above all else. However, these historical instances are not isolated episodes but part of a broader pattern. Throughout history, clothing has served as a tool, a means of delineating social status, enforcing gender roles, and exerting control. And more often than not, it was women who found themselves on the receiving end of these biases. The threads of women's clothing bias are woven into the very fabric of our past, intertwined with societal norms and expectations. From the togas of Rome to the bustles of Victorian England, the history of women's clothing is a testament to the enduring power of bias, a chronicle of how societal norms have shaped, and continue to shape, the way women dress. As we have seen, the seeds of women's clothing bias were sown deep in the soil of history, growing into a complex web of societal norms and expectations. But, like any intricate pattern, it's not just about the threads that make it up, but also the hands that weave it. In the next scene, we will explore the cultural manifestations of women's clothing bias, examining how different societies interpret and enforce these norms. As we traverse the globe, the diverse patterns of women's clothing bias come into full view. Let's set our sights on the Middle East first. Here, garments such as the hijab, burqa, or niqab are deeply woven into the fabric of society, embodying religious and cultural values. These pieces, often associated with modesty and piety, are more than just cloth. They represent a woman's identity and way of life. But like two sides of the same coin, they are also subjects of controversy and debate. To some, they symbolize oppressive patriarchal control, a stark reminder of the biases that women face daily. Now let's journey to India, a country bursting with color and diversity. Traditional attire like the sari, salwar kameez, and ghagra choli paint a vibrant picture of India's rich cultural tapestry. Celebrated for their elegance and craftsmanship, these garments are more than mere fashion statements. They reflect regional diversity and cultural heritage. However, beneath the surface of their beauty, they also perpetuate certain gender norms. Women are often expected to dress in these specific modes, a subtle but powerful indication of societal expectations and biases. From the Middle East to India, these examples highlight a crucial point. Women's clothing bias is not a monolithic construct. Instead, it is a colorful mosaic of diverse cultural practices and sartorial customs. Like a complex tapestry, each thread tells a unique story, reflecting the intricate interplay of culture, tradition, and societal norms. Yet as we unravel this tapestry, it's important to remember that biases are not inherently woven into these garments, rather they are the product of societal interpretations and expectations, a testament to the power of perception. The hijab or the sari are not just pieces of cloth, they are symbols, laden with meaning and subject to interpretation. As these examples illustrate, women's clothing bias is not a monolithic construct, but a colorful mosaic of diverse cultural practices and sartorial customs. In the fast-paced world of the 21st century, the fabric of women's clothing bias continues to evolve, reflecting new trends, ideologies, and challenges. The contemporary relevance of this bias is most evident in the realm of global fashion trends and social media, where the clothing choices of women are both celebrated and scrutinized. The rise of movements like #MeToo has brought to the forefront the importance of autonomy and consent in matters of dress. This has challenged long-held notions of blame and modesty, encouraging a re-evaluation of the societal expectations placed on women's attire. Yet, alongside this empowering narrative, we also see the continuation of bias in the hypersexualization of women's bodies in media and advertising. This reinforces unrealistic beauty standards and the harmful idea that a woman's worth is intrinsically tied to her appearance. The complexity of women's clothing bias is further compounded when we consider the intersectionality with race, class, and religion. Women of color, for instance, navigate a complex landscape of cultural appropriation and Eurocentric beauty ideals. The clothing they choose to wear often becomes a loaded symbol, subject to varying interpretations and biases. In the modern era, women's clothing bias is a dynamic, evolving entity, shaping and shaped by a myriad of factors. It's a narrative woven from threads of empowerment and scrutiny, individual choice and societal expectation, freedom and constraint. As we have seen, women's clothing bias is a multifaceted phenomenon, stitched into the very fabric of our societies. From the ancient civilizations to the contemporary world, it has been a significant tool to enforce gender roles and societal norms. It's a global tapestry, reflecting diverse traditions, yet laden with biases. The modern era continues this narrative, albeit in evolving ways. It's time to challenge these biases and weave a new narrative, one where women's clothing is a canvas for self-expression, not a tool for societal control.